Hey, good morning, y'all. Take those off for a second. Sitting here going through my supplies, trying to figure out what it is that I need. Kind of mid to late February right now, and spring is kind of creeping in on us. Fishing's going to change a little bit, conditions, the fish patterns, where we're going to find them, and baits I'm going to be throwing at them are going to change a little bit. Nothing drastic, but things are going to change, presentations, etc., etc. So I thought, well, while I was doing this, we'd go ahead and talk about lessons that I'd learned fishing from a kayak. And it took me a little while to figure out what exactly the second thing that fishing from kayaks did teach me. The second thing that it really taught me was that once I quit chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow 6 miles away from where I was launching at, and I slowed down, was that I was starting to see fish, and see a lot of fish that I'd never seen before. So it got me thinking about the importance of stealth, being stealthy on the water. Now, when you're, fishing deep water, that's not such a major criteria. I mean, even, 8 feet of water in the wintertime on the fishing creeks and stuff, catching trout down deep in the big holes and stuff like that. The stealthiness still a little important, but not as critical. Now, when you get in water that's like 1.5 feet, 2 foot deep, and it's clear and it's shallow and it's just a broad, shallow area, and these fish become really hyper aware. And drifting up on them in the kayak, I was getting really close to these fish. And one of the problems I was having, of course, was basically sitting down in that kayak. As soon as I could see them, well, they were seeing me too. So I spooked a lot more fish than I caught, trust me. I tried to find some footage to demonstrate what it is I'm talking about, but unfortunately, that camera will not see in the water what I see when I'm wearing a good set of polarized glasses. Even though I can see the fish clearly, you just can't see it on the camera. So I really don't have footage that demonstrates that, so I'm just going to play some of this other footage. When I slowed down and I started just poking around into these places, I started seeing these fish. And it was surprising to me at just how close you can get to these fish. But the problem being, when you're sitting that low on the water, you're pretty close before you can see them. And for another, they're very hyper aware of their surroundings when they're in water that shallow. Especially if it's a calmer day. If you got a little bit of breeze and a little bit of ripple, a few little waves that are bouncing, hitting the mangrove branches or the shoreline or wherever you're at, that kind of deadens it a little bit, and it helps, but it's not going to be the solution to it. You have to learn to be meticulous. And you need to do that on bigger boats too, because these fish that I'm seeing, I didn't see. I mean, yeah, I did see them, with my boat, but not nearly as many, and not nearly with the frequency that I do now. Just shifting your weight when you go to make a cast in that shallow of water, especially when it's really calm, and you rock that boat a little bit, that creates a pressure wave. And that's probably lessons for another day, but those fish feel that. They sense that. And that pressure wave in that shallow water means nothing more than danger to them. You could be, You could be a dolphin, you could be a very large fish, you could be, a number of things that's a threat to them, and they go hyper aware. I have literally been down in the Ozello area and just easing around, and I'll be 20 yards out, and snook 30 feet up in front of me will swim up to that mangrove bank, and usually they're pretty much out there when the tides are down, but they'll get right up there along that mangrove bank where there's a little bit of a sand, maybe a little shallow spot there, and it's so shallow that their backs are literally sticking out of the water, and they'll face me, and as I go by, they'll be sitting there, and they're just facing me, and they turn their bodies, and they never take their eyes off of me the whole time I'm going by. And they're sitting up there in that real shallow water, and I don't care what you throw at them, they're not going to take it because they're on alert. But stealth is something that's really important. You really need to be stealthy when you're fishing shallow water like that. You need to be able to cast long distances. You need really good sunglasses. You're going to need to be able to see, and you're going to need to be able to see well, because those fish can see better under that water than you can. And trust me, if you can see that fish can see you. The way, if it sees you or it senses your presence, then it's going to focus its attention on you, and it's not going to be interested in eating. It's concerned with what you are. And that was probably a really big lesson for me, and it was a turning point, because for me to understand that, I had to move on and learn to understand a lot of other things, like where you want to look. And that's a whole, there's so much involved in that. But that was the second most important thing, was to learn to be stealthy. Because it doesn't matter how many fish are there if they know you're coming when you get there. Hey, pretty girl. Here's a Lily. You're one of my girls. Yeah, pretty girl. So that's really about that's really what I wanted to just let you know. That was the second thing, and one of the top most important things that I learned from fishing in a kayak. And I guess that'll do it for now. So I hope this gives you something to think about, and if you're not, you really should. Be conscious of every move that you make, because any slight movement under those circumstances, if you got really calm, clear, slick water, say you got one of them days where there's no breeze, the water's like a mirror, you've got nothing but just a gentle tide flow, and the water's 1.5 feet deep, and you see those redfish and they're 40 feet away, 50 feet away, 60 feet away, and you can see them under those conditions if you got good optics on. And you stand up, just me standing up in the kayak, not even really close enough for them to actually see me. They could be pointed in a different direction. And me stand up and rock that boat, just rocking it, and they're like gone. So, stealthiness, major lesson that kayak taught me. And I hope this helps. I hope this gives you something to think about. And as long as you're conscious of it, you can learn to adapt to it. So, bringing the awareness to you is what I'm trying to do here. Y'all have a great day. tight lines, everybody, and go catch some fish. As you can see, I've got some sorting to do here. Get ready for spring. So, y'all have a good day.